All right, it's showtime.
The only thing we have to
Beer.
is
Beer.
itself.
Beer. So many choices.
Only no function beer well without.
Woohoo! Beer!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Busters. We'll bring you the news and reviews of your favorite brews. I'm Dan Baker, joined as usual by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
and of course the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
All right. It's 2 weeks in podcast time. It's not even 24 hours. I guess it is technically 24 hours in like real calendar time, but I love back to back. It's so much fun. We've unfortunately had times where we weren't able to do this. Not, anybody's fault, just scheduling conflicts with the world as it is. But here we are, and we have joining us for a wonderful episode. I'm very excited to ask a lot of questions about this because there were things in the notes that I don't know that I understand, which doesn't say a whole lot because I don't understand a lot of things. But I'm excited to get into it. But we have joining us from the Referend Beer Blendery,
James Priest. That's me. And I guess founded the Referend 2015 or 16, depending on how you count it. We were in Jersey for some years, and now we're in Kutztown, Pennsylvania.
Woo woo.
I love that it's depending on how you count it.
Like you register your business with the federal government,
Yeah,
you
I
brew
got
your
you.
first illegal batch of beer, you release that legal beer later on.
Right.
All kinds of different milestones in the formation of one of these alcohol businesses.
Alcohol business.
Lots of hoops to jump through.
Yeah, we've heard plenty of the timeline horror stories along the way. But thank you for joining us. It's fun to have you on. Yeah, of course. And there's a lot that we're going to get into. Housekeeping, you listening to this, you know the drill by now, but you can follow along with the shenanigans. We are at Beer Busters on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are Beer Busters Podcast on Facebook. There's also beerbusterspodcast.com/shop is the cool addition to the URL where you can get your hands on some merch that Wayne designed. On YouTube, we're Beer Busters Podcast, and there's patreon.com/beerbusters where you can get access to all the fun behind-the-scenes goodies, the back catalog of punishment videos, last call segments, all for as little as $1 a month. You can't beat that deal with a stick.
I liked your several embellishments this time around on that.
I try to change it up every time we record, but usually it's kind of long in between recordings, so I forget what I said last time. But this is just fresh in the mind for once.
Almost like you just said it last night.
I know. This is the beauty of real time versus podcast time.
I do want to point out, this happens to be our 250th episode.
Yes, it is.
I'm pretty sure that's like a celebratory number, is it not?
Yeah, it
is.
What's the right term? There's like the bicentennial. Is this the bison?
It's a quarter millennium.
Bison Quig. What was it like when Reading years ago had their 250th anniversary of like being an official city? It was like the Bison Quinquagenary or something.
It was the Bison Quinquagenary.
Okay.
You actually know that?
Yeah, it got drilled into my head in like elementary school.
Yeah, Bison Quinquagenary. Yeah, say that.
Semi-quincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial. This is the semi-quincentennial episode of Beer Busters.
Ennial implies years, and we haven't been doing this for 250 years.
That's fair.
But we're coming up on 10. We're coming up on 10. Official 10.
That's true.
That is true. It is almost our 10-year anniversary for real.
For real.
That is a decade. That I know.
Yes.
I know what that's called.
But anyway, cheers.
Yes.
And maybe 250 more. Can we do this for 10 more years? I don't know.
That's a lot.
There's so many variables. Will the world be here in 10 years? Who knows?
I'm just thinking about what all of our ages will be then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, on with the show.
I just realized that in 10 years, you guys will be 50.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You can bleep that out when
nope.
you edit this.
Nope. In fact, I'm going to make it louder. Well, as we mentioned, we got James joining us, and I'm so excited about this. So for those who are not aware, and it's been a while since we've talked about what a blendery is, how would you describe to a casual beer drinker what a blendery is?
Well, we just had to do this for our local zoning board.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was fine. A blendery is kind of a borrowed term or a translated term from Belgian lambic blendery, or what they would call like a goose steakery, goose blendery, I guess in translation, as close as we've got, in which you would not necessarily brew the wort or beer yourself, but blend and prepare the beer. So when, in more antiquated production methods, such as we employ, it can take forever for the beer to ferment and mature. And so it's a whole job unto itself for a blender or preparer to take wort or young beer and kind of mature it and blend it to taste, to serve in their own pubs, would be the original method. We've kept the blendery moniker a bit now, though we, as of last brewing season, are brewing our own wort. But we had six full brewing seasons prior, all brewed at different host breweries across New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania.
So I guess technically at that point would you be considered a full-out brewery if you are brewing your own?
Yeah,
okay.
We're a brewery, and we're just kind of a specialized brewery that still only practices spontaneous fermentation. We still think of sourcing the wort from all over is definitely one of the main hallmarks of a blendery, but also kind of the simple act of maintaining a large barrel cellar and blending from within that is another of the major ones, whether that's a single source brewery or multi-source, basically.
So what was the transportation like when you would brew the wort somewhere else? Because years ago we had Ethan on from Fermentary Forum, and he brewed it right up the street at what was St. Benjamin at the time.
Yep. Yeah, so that was a little, I think, easier for him. Like he could forklift.
Yeah, because it was like right up the street.
Right. Basically, yeah.
So we have, unfortunately still have, I wish this were past tense, but it's not, a large enterprise box truck purchased with a custom-made cool ship, basically to fit the dimensions of that box truck. It's very large. It has an interior wall to allow us to brew at like a kind of wide variety of host breweries, whether their capacity is 10 barrels up to 30-ish barrels, even 40 we could probably do, but we didn't. I think 35 we kind of maxed out at. So we would take that box truck around to local breweries. We would have behind the cool ship, we would have IBC totes for transporting the wort. Once it had cooled, we would have all the grain that we brought with us on the brew day, some hoses and pumps, and some aged hops. And that was pretty much it. We just spend all day there brewing real arduous wort, turbid mash stuff that would take us usually, 12 to 18 hours. And then, pump out into the cool ship and wait for it to cool down to at least a transportable temperature, and then bring it back to our blendery.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. What is a transportable temperature?
Well, I guess it depends. So we were just using plastic IBC totes. So the main concern is to not exceed the temperature capacity of the plastic. So we would have to get it down to about 150 or something. I think they're rated for 170 or 180, but we didn't want to.
Yeah, why risk it?
Yeah, exactly. But if you're using stainless steel, you could, in theory, do it very quickly. You could, Some people have definitely done it that way, where they've basically had a stainless container full of boiling wort or near it, and have that be the transport vessel, then take it to kind of a home cool ship.
Jeez.
There's all kinds of ways to, do this weird.
So what was the speed limit of the truck when you were driving the wort back to the blendery?
I think it kept getting worse, and I shouldn't say this because I really got to sell that truck. But initially, it was. It also depended, if we were at Stickman or something, we were doing a 10-barrel batch. It was fine. You could still go 70 or something. It was not too crazy on braking or maintaining that. Sorry about that. And we did one at like I think Double Nickel in Pensacola, New Jersey, where it was like fully 30 something barrels and like 3 IBC totes, and the whole kind of truck would just kind of sway with the some high speeds, and at least that was not kind of high speed highway driving, so that was more like you're happy to go 55 and just kind of play it safe and get ready when you see a traffic light way in the distance. How you're going to manage that.
So basically, you have to brake like in the manner of like a train. Like you have to start braking very
and
early.
Like we were not being like unsafe about this. We looked up the weight ratings and everything. We were sometimes not well within it, but we were within it. Still just spooky. Between that and kind of like low overpass things, I'm glad to be out of the truck driving game.
I bet. There was one point where I just imagined it to be like the episode of The Simpsons where they had the pool mobile, where it was just a pool in the back of a semi truck that was just completely uncovered.
Yeah, it's not as dissimilar as I might prefer it.
Oh
no! Oh, that's fine.
Like you said, you're getting out of that game.
Exactly.
I gotta imagine though, and I know we're like we tend to like focus on really strange things now. We're not focusing on the transportation of work, but I can imagine that's got to be so like nerve wracking. Not just like the safety, obviously, and like wanting to drive safely and not like get into an accident or anything, but also because like that represents a lot of money in the back of the truck too. So like if something were to happen, it's equipment and the wort is valuable.
At least like the day of, that's as cheap as it ever is, because we haven't then aged it for forever. It's basically just like the ingredients and what we paid the host brewery, which is not nothing. But yeah, it's everything.
When you would think of host breweries that you wanted to brew at, did you mostly go to people who you knew, or did you ever have to cold call anybody and just say like, hey, I have a blendery, can I use your equipment? And like, obviously I'll pay you for the space and the time and whatever, but
early on I did some cold calling. That it very quickly, you kind of can suss out whether or not someone has no interest in it whatsoever, or so there were definitely some where it's like, this is just not going to work out. And then once we were doing it more, some people would be like, we should, come bring your goofy truck down. Let's brew something. Ethan at not Fermentary Forum, but at Stickman, we had both worked at the same South Jersey winery, like kind of consecutively. So we didn't actually like meet there, but we were looped together on some like barrel availability chain or something. And then Ethan, I think, was checking out our website. We had not yet brewed and was like, we could probably fit you in. That's how we started our first brewing season. Was a little kind of under the radar, Royersford, PA stuff.
Cool. And if you're going to be forced to spend a whole day with someone, Ethan Buckman isn't a terrible person to spend that day with.
It was very fun. It was all
you could do worse.
Sure.
So speaking of Ethan, one of his big things when he started Stickman was the open fermentation. Now you mentioned, what was it, spontaneous fermentation?
Yes.
The hell is that?
So these are distinct but can be overlapping things. So open fermentation is just going to describe allowing fermentation to occur in a vessel that's not under pressure kind of in any way, so that all the built up CO2 can pretty readily escape. Spontaneous fermentation is the practice of adding no fermentative organisms to your wort. So we just kind of let nature do its thing. We just let whatever ambient yeast and bacteria are present in the air in and around our brew house, which is now kind of nicely nestled in a vineyard that we're also converting to organic to help it kind of have as diverse a microbial population as possible. And sometimes we will do both. We'll employ both spontaneous and open fermentation. Ordinarily, we'll kind of, what happens in the cool ship we would describe as a spontaneous inoculation. There's rarely fermentation happening in the cool ship because it only spends about 6 to 20 hours there. Sometimes in late spring, when everything in the air is particularly active, and you can kind of start to see some early fermentation signs in the cool ship. but more frequently we'll pump that then cooled wort down into our barrel cellar, and then over the course of 1 to 10 days you'll start to see it kind of take off in fermentation. But sometimes we'll do both, not pitch anything and allow it kind of a full open fermentation, sometimes in an open fermenter that I bought from Ethan. Even actually last year, that one of those, I think I just bought one. Yeah, one opened, one of Ethan's original open tops. I don't know if he's got any left. But our kettle burner went down as of like April of last year, and we still had some grain lying around, like enough to brew several batches of wort. And so I just bought a bunch of fire brick and put it around the kind of base of that.
Wow.
And we just lit fires underneath that and had that be our outdoor boil kettle. So it's lived an illustrious life at this point.
That's fair. I love not just like because spontaneous fermentation is also like a very ancient way of creating ferment. Yeah,
sure.
Because that's how people made alcohol before we knew what yeast was. Because it just
could have happened even before people, right? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's true. Yeah,
even animals were there to enjoy it.
Sure. I'm sure some did. Yeah, I'm sure some did. But then to not only have that, but then to to just set up the brick and to you build the fire by hand to sort of heat up the kettle. It's very sort of down to the earth of brewing. I feel like you're getting like very close to like the very traditional aspects of it. So, but the spontaneous fermentation comes then with, I mean, obviously it's something that is an art form that you learn over time doing, but it does come with some risk because you don't always know exactly what's going to happen. And so that is why the blending comes in then too, because then you can kind of control the final product, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's all very much at odds with the kind of industrial brewing, idolized thing of consistency above all else, even above quality sometimes, to hear people talk about it. And it is upsetting to me, but, but so consistency, doesn't so much figure into it to the degree that it does. It's all, at the scale of blending, and how you can kind of, keep a beer in your portfolio, have some of the same character while never being the same. It's definitely more akin to like a vintage variation in a given wine from a given vineyard or something, where each season is going to give you something a little bit different.
And with that, I mean, that sort of quest for consistency that we hear a lot, I think, is reflected in consumers too, who maybe aren't quite as knowledgeable about the world of beer. Do you find that you have to do a little educating with people with like the kind of beers that you produce, and that they're not always going to be exactly the same?
Totally. We have always considered like our tasting room endeavors to be like basically educational first and foremost. You can't just like, if somebody just looked up breweries near me on Google and then shows up, you can't just hand them one of our beers. You're going to do everybody in the room a horrible disservice. So we need to talk through the process and why everything tastes the way that it does and why we do what we do. There are some people that are, I don't know, so ingrained in consistency and, McDonald's existed and then Starbucks existed, and there are these things where you're like, I want to be able to go anywhere and have the same thing everywhere, and God help you if you deviate from I'll take all kinds of sacrifices in quality as long as it's the same.
As long as it's always exactly the same.
Yeah. So I'm not I'm vehemently not feeding into that. And for people where that's, if they object too strongly, it's very plainly just not the place or beer for them, which is totally fine. It's, it's a somewhat polarizing kind of taste profile, I think, regardless. I'm not trying to pretend otherwise or, trick anyone into,
I think as soon as someone pulls in the driveway there, or steps into the barn or into the tasting room downstairs, I think it's evident that you're about to experience something different. Like the Referend is not just any other brewery. You can feel that as soon as you walk in, that it's going to be a different experience, not just from the aesthetics, or the barrels or the barn cats, or I mean, even down to how thoughtful like your beer menu is. Like, I feel like you have thoughtfully thought about every little detail to express what a special experience it is to come and have these beers. So I hope that for some of those people, they walk in, maybe they realize, that this is going to be something special. But as Pennsylvanians, of course, we are super excited that you have moved from New Jersey into Pennsylvania. Can you talk about the farm and talk about what brought you guys to Kutztown?
For sure. And thank you for saying such nice things about the place. Yeah, we do try to be thoughtful about things. So what brought us to Kutztown itself was certainly this property. We had been looking for like we've done 2 3-year lease terms on our New Jersey spot. Didn't like our landlord and wanted out, and knew that with a couple of years to spare. So we were looking everywhere. We were looking all over Jersey, Hudson Valley, all over southeastern Pennsylvania. I don't think any other states, but and certainly Pennsylvania and New York offered a lot that New Jersey didn't. And I understand they're working a little bit right now, hopefully, on bettering their brewery laws, but it was pretty rough when we were there. I'm cautiously optimistic for all of our friends and colleagues we left behind there. But so yeah, this farm came around on the market just when we needed it to. It was an existing winery for 30 years. With the vineyard that old as well. Not huge. It's like a little under 6 acres total. 3.5, which is planted to vineyard. There's some fruit trees, and we've planted some elderberry, aronia. There's some little bit of rhubarb. Planted some plum trees. But we're working on the agricultural component for sure as well, which is always kind of one of the goals. But yeah, the barrel cellar is now like kind of built into a hillside, which we had it's just a massive improvement. We were in I think we had 15-foot ceilings in our big warehouse in New Jersey, and we definitely allow for some like seasonality, some temperature fluctuations in the barrel cellar, and believe in that to get as much kind of seasonal character as you can, and to encourage different yeast and bacteria and the longevity of the beer. But our air conditioning bills in the summer there were just awful for ourselves and the environment, one would presume. So now having it built into the hill, stays cool through like all of May, and we just do a little bit of gentle air conditioning to the space, and it's going to be better for the beer, certainly. Ourselves, everything. It's basically just a far more sustainable thing. The aesthetics, my God, we had to do very, very little because wine people are much better. I feel at I don't know, maybe just spending or catering to I don't know. They invest more in the space in which you enjoy the beer or wine, right? Breweries definitely kind of get off a little easy, and I'm still perfectly happy in the cookie cutter-ish space if the beer is good. Don't get me wrong. We had just our big empty warehouse that we tried to make our own as best we could. But it's in our minds just kind of an upgrade in every considerable in every way possible.
I was, as you were describing the space and looking at the pictures, obviously I haven't been to the new location yet, but I definitely, as cool as the old spot was, it was that like what you expect when you go to a brewery. It was a large industrial space. I mean, barrels everywhere, which is always really cool. So that was nice to see. But just like looking at your background here on the call and looking at the pictures on the website, it definitely feels like, aside from like the production and the lowering of costs and being able to be a little more environmentally friendly, it does feel like the aesthetics are now a little more aligned with what you're producing, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, right. We've never, I don't know, branded along any kind of farmhouse lines at all. But yeah, I'm in a farmhouse right now from 1850, and it's great.
I imagine the drop ceiling's not from 1850, though.
No, the drop ceiling is actually need a pretty bad replacement. But the stone wall behind me, I believe, is from 1850.
Looks like it.
I'm curious about these.
I'm
curious about the barn cats that Steph mentioned.
Yeah, we got a couple barn cats. Very much out of necessity during the transition from winery to brewery, I will say. But we adopted them from Berks County Animal Rescue, and they're from their barn cat program. They're delightful. One is functionally mute, and the other one won't shut up. And we kind of like lock them away during our cellar bar open hours, mostly because one or both of them don't mind going on top of the bar top, so we need to be able to clean them and then just get them away. But you'll just hear them if there's like too few people. If there's a bunch of people kind of being good and convivially rowdy or whatever, they'll shut up and just be snoozing. But if it's just like myself or Melissa talking to a patron or three, they're just meowing. Well, the one is just meowing endlessly. It's a problem.
They want to be included.
That's true. Yes. Is the one who will not shut up orange?
No.
Okay.
Tuxedo cat. Yeah.
We have a very, very loud cat here at home who's orange, and I've been told by several people that that's an orange cat personality trait, being very rambunctious and loud.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it's true.
They always say tuxedo cats are bipolar, which Jack is a tuxedo cat.
This cat is, I don't know. She's trouble.
I feel like most cats are kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, that is very true.
I had never owned a cat, had very little exposure to cats prior to this. It's been a real learning experience, but we love them. They're great.
Oh,
awesome.
Well, we pulled out one of our bottles. All three bottles that I have left are all saisons. And I was like, they do brew other things than saisons, right?
We do.
I mean, I know that's true. But we pulled out Mont Saint Victoire.
Yeah, Mont Saint Victoire.
It's quite tasty. I haven't said that in a while, but
I was wondering if you were going to acknowledge that.
But it's lovely. Some of the beers, there's such a range of drinkability, perhaps, with these beers, where some of them are, you almost have that feeling like you need a Tums afterwards when you've had a few of those more sour and acidic beers. This one seems, it has that nice harshness, but it's like mellow at the same time. So what is it when you're blending the beers? Is there a certain level of acidity that you're trying to achieve?
So a little bit happens like on the brew day, and we along with I think most people in the, I don't know, American wild ale broader category, especially those practicing spontaneous fermentation, are always interested in drinkability. Like, you're definitely this huge category of sour beer where if somebody's making a quote sour beer, they're setting out to acidify the beer to like the degree that they want it. They want a certain kind of maybe citric acid profile or something, or they want this,
right?
They want this, a certain pH that they're aiming for. They want it to be sour, kind of for sour's sake. And with spontaneous fermentation, it's always incidental to the process. It's just that inherently with a bacterial fermentation happening alongside a yeast fermentation, it's going to produce, some types of acidity. And that's about kind of, I guess, treating that however you can. You can increase hopping rates to get kind of a different acid profile. How long you let the beer sit and the storage conditions under which it does are going to have a pretty big impact on that acid level. So at blending time, it's definitely, if something is aggressively sour, we're probably looking to do something a little different with it. Dry hopping can kind of mitigate it. If there's something that's like too kind of vinegary, too high acetic acid, we will usually just dump it entirely because there's not a whole lot you can kind of blend out once that's taken hold. But there are plenty of like sometimes gorgeous, real low pH, technically, quite sour barrels that we've tasted that can find kind of rehoming, whether blending with something that's like got a firmer bitterness and a lower acid profile that they can kind of slowly mesh together over a year in bottle. Or dry hopping. Fruiting is generally going to make the acid / sourness get worse, if anything, but it's a little bit fruit dependent for sure. There's all kinds of ways to try to target something that at the end is still very much enjoyable. But there's certainly, as you've noted, a huge range. There are, plenty of these 750 milliliter bottles that I'm very happy to drink on my own. And there are others that you want to pour 2 to 4 glasses of, like for other people, not, just a little useless tasting flight for yourself, just to make it more delicious. But it's all over the map a little bit, but we're definitely trying to make something that's still kind of, exciting and towing the line. And the acid is also one of the major things that gives these beers their longevity, which is something we prize them for. So we don't want to lose that, but it's definitely, a balancing act of how to make something beautiful and interesting and last forever, but also that you would very happily drink like at least 12 ounces of. I think that's a kind of bare minimum that you'd want to, experience.
And then you guys always seem to create something, I guess, that is surprising and unexpected. Like I would consider this beer to be something that, like, if I'm going to the Referend, I would expect to enjoy something like this or in this wheelhouse. But we were there for the jazz band. Was that right before Christmas when you guys did the the right Glühwein inspired warm beer? That was like. That was just like another experience. It was like, I've had Glühwein before, but that was just, and I'm sure like sitting there in the environment and the jazz band, and it was cozy and like just to have that mug of warm goodness, like it was. So what inspired you to create something like that?
I forget if, because we're not the only ones.
That's a fabulous answer.
It was a while ago when we started doing it.
Well, that's a good point, because these ideas take years to come to fruition.
I want to say we started doing it winter of 2017-18, which would have been like our first. It might have been 18-19. I'm not. I think 18-19 though was when we bought like a dedicated carafe for this purpose. I think earlier we were just using a crock pot for it. I think maybe so we've done it with we've done it with like a grape re-fermented beer and also with a Creek inspired kind of cherry base. Both work very, very well. I know that like Cascade in Oregon had been doing something similar prior to us. I forget if I was aware of that or not. I like mulled cider and wine and everything, and just and then in the winter, I don't know, a lot of our beer feels more kind of spring or summery or fall and not as much. I mean, it's still like fun kind of, I guess, anything in the champagne or highly carbonated realm feels fun through the holidays, but what do you do in January and February, when it's just like all these bright beers when you're trying to feel all emo in the dark time.
Winter after the holidays is the most emo time of year.
You need like Czech dark lagers and oatmeal stouts and stuff, and we don't make those.
Baltic porter
and shouldn't. All the good stuff.
I might have a Czech dark lager. I'm gonna grab that. Thank you for saying that.
Dan has been inspired.
It's just out of reach. I'll get there. I forget. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't remember what initially inspired it. I think we just went for it. Just bought some of the requisite mulling spices and ingredients. I'm not sure if we waited until Boomy Growers. There's a family farm in central Jersey that grows all kinds of exotic citrus, and maybe exotic's not the right word, but they started with yuzus. Certainly not citrus necessarily native to the continent, I would say. And yeah, they had some like we started getting their calamansis probably around that time, and those just like, I mean, one of the major kind of glue vine ingredients is usually a kind of dried orange of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working that in. So that might have been the another kind of impetus for the program. By the time we had, I mean, not that we're getting local vanilla beans or cinnamon or anything, but to have at least one more component that was something close to home, that felt good. Yeah, so that's usually, we just get some distant cloves and sometimes vanilla bean, depending on the beer. Good cinnamon, local citrus. It's a nice time. Local honey. Yeah.
I've learned there's a good local honey scene, especially out towards like Kutztown area. I never would have thought of that.
There's so many. I'm real skeptical of honey people. Just there's so much. There's so much. It's kind of like wine. It's kind of like wine labels. There's so much misleading shit out there.
Oh yeah.
That you gotta know the person. And I'm not saying like don't buy honey. It's still gonna be honey. It's fine. I'm just saying like for us, a lot of the honey suppliers we'll work with, you'll have to ask them, or you'll have to know what is actually growing in your region when they're selling like different fruit blossom honey alongside like orange blossom honey, which there's no, that's they're shipping that in.
I have wondered about that.
That is not local honey. That's just they packaged somebody else's honey, just like you'll have wineries around here that'll package California wine.
What if it's a honey blendery? I
mean, yeah, look, transparency is all I'm asking for. No, definitely. Just don't pretend that like it's where the address is, I guess. Yeah.
That is actually a good note of caution that even a small producer doesn't necessarily mean that it's all actually local. Like it may not be.
Yeah. Then I don't know. I get it. Like people will buy it.
Yeah.
And like, in the case of wineries, like, sure, you're not probably growing Zinfandel here and maybe enough people are asking for it. I mean, I say I get it. I don't subscribe to it at all. Yeah. And it does annoy me a little bit, but I also do understand fully why people choose to, Yeah,
you can understand where like the urge to do that, or like the feel the need to do something like that. Understand where it comes from.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the actual process, particularly with fully spontaneously fermented beers, how you go from developing, the malt bill for the wort to like your target when there's so much sort of left to chance in between there. How much is left to chance, and like how much of the target beer are you aware of when you're like putting together the recipe for the wort?
Interesting, because I guess there are like kind of recipes that we started with not knowing, like this is such it's a hard model to begin from a home brewing scale. Like it does not necessarily scale. If you don't have the right size barrels, then you can't age the beer for as long. It's you kind of got to just like take a leap, and then you need a lot of barrels so you can blend them together once everything kind of goes its disparate ways. A lot is certainly left to chance. We definitely, as frequently as possible, I'll start from a place of deep historicity. I'll take a historical recipe from before we started fucking with everything. And I'll try to just kind of, take whatever local ingredients we can and fit them to that purpose. I'll try to use something like that kind of hopping rate maybe. And we'll, substitute in whatever kind of different hops we feel. And sometimes we'll kind of hybridize styles a little bit. Knowing that, like, for our Berliner Weiss that we call Berliner Messe, for example, like it's probably 85% modeled after a historical Berliner Weiss proper recipe. But knowing that we're still not pitching yeast, which is likely ahistorical, that I'll do different things, and I'll borrow them from like a lambic brewing tradition of, okay, we'll use aged hops, we'll use a little less of them, use kind of maybe lower original alpha. We'll use raw wheat instead of malted wheat, just kind of substitute in different things. And we'll also tweak them over the years if, at the end result, which is unpredictable, but you kind of scan, you get a feel for like, okay, this is what happened that season. Now that we're year in, we know what those barrels did. We know roughly the direction they're headed. And you can kind of make whatever changes, you need to at that point in time. That's always been kind of the struggle, is like, I mean, as I was just saying that, I was like, oh, a year, it's not so long. Early on, that feels like forever. And it's definitely, if you're an IPA brewer, you're getting real time, you're getting information every 2 or 3 weeks about like, do I want to tweak this for the next batch? And you can do that so quickly, and we have to wait a year. So it's a slower learning curve. All the more reason to read all that you can and talk to, as many people who are doing the same insane, serious endeavor, to see what they're doing, struggles they've had, how they combat them, and then fit them however you can without, changing your ethos too much or having it everybody's beer tasting the same or anything. Yeah.
And you have to, I imagine, have to take pretty detailed notes too, because you have to remember so far back.
You're right. You take notes on as many things as you possibly can. And then you take notes on the weather, even is kind of maybe the only, because like every brewer is going to take good notes, right?
Yeah.
The weather is kind of the main one where like, do other brewers have to be like, all right, high pollen count. It was this temperature when we knocked out. It was this temperature overnight, this temperature when we knocked back out of the cool ship. This speed of wind. What did the air smell like if it was notable? Those are not necessarily part of the American craft brewing brew logs, but they are definitely our own. Yeah.
So there's a lot more you have to consider with the environmental conditions other than just like the temperature. Like there's so much more.
Yeah.
Humidity, I imagine, has an effect.
Yep. Humidity, or even actively raining. Yeah, you name it.
Wow. It's such a fascinating process because it's so ancient. And also because it's so natural, and you're just kind of letting the process happen and just sort of stewarding it rather than like, I mean, brewing technology is amazing and fascinating. And I love super high tech breweries too, but the sort of like down to the earth kind of method of producing is fascinating. So it sounds like it kind of starts in broad strokes. And then as you sort of taste the barrels and watch the barrels, you kind of sort of hone in on what the final blend is going to be.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the case. And then learning where that went will then inform how you go about the next brewing season. And if you'll make a small alteration to hopping rate or grist bill or a certain mash temp or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is the weirdest note you've ever taken of the prevailing smell in the air?
in the air. But we get about, I would say, 20 days out of the year we get a failing cow shit. A nice cow field aroma comes wafting over.
Only 20 days out of the year?
Yeah. Because it's kind of far away, I think. It's probably like a mile and a half down the road or something. Well, not even down, it's down some back roads to get there. So it's got to be blowing just right. Yeah, it's I assume that has some effect. DeGard, one of the other two all spontaneous breweries, is in Tillamook, Oregon, in a heavy cow shit air environment, so I'm not too spooked by it. And there are some some lambic breweries that are pretty out there. I think Tilcan, you can definitely see, is it cows or horses? You can see from it's like barrel bad. One or the other, but but it's a traditional kind of farmland product and process. It's yeah,
I guess it would be very different if it happened in a city, if you tried to do spontaneous fermentation in like downtown Philly.
Yeah, I mean, and like everybody, then we'll cite like Cantillon, as Cantillon's in,
Yeah, true.
in something, a busy enough neighborhood part of Brussels proper. But also it's had, a century of microflora resident within its own kind of, it's probably got an ecology of its own, that whole building at this point. So tough to say what's fully exposed. I think there's also kind of an American tradition of, at this point, it's I don't know what year it would, 2023. I don't know. It's only been going on since like 2005 or 6 or something.
Right.
But like this kind of tradition of leaving a cool ship kind of fully outside, of just like, let's invite, like, not, Cantillon, it's up in the attic. It's not like they've got louvered windows, but that's just going to kind of that's going to take the steam out. It's not that you're not inviting that air in, but not to the point of like, Oxbow, I think, usually just has their cool ship just kind of out of doors. A number of places I think do that, and ours is usually mostly with at least the truck door itself kind of wide open, and usually to the is this how things work? The windward side? I don't know windward. I'm not this is nautical.
I know,
I'm not sure.
Leeward means something.
Yeah, those are opposites. Anyway, this it catches all the air. Yeah.
Now, DeGard is located not far from the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Does the location to large bodies of water? I mean, I assume that adds even more data to take, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's ever. When I've been in Tillamook, I haven't necessarily like smelled the sea as much.
Mm-hmm.
Some places you like very much do, and maybe then tidal differences are going to play a huge role. Obviously that smell differential is enormous. There's somebody who took our, well, they didn't take it from us, but somebody who took our truck model definitely to the next level. There's I think one of the owners of owner-founder of Novare Res Beer Cafe in Portland, Maine, has a cool bus, spelled Koel. It's a bus that he like repainted and put a cool ship in, and they'll like brew it liquid riot there and just pump into that cool ship right on the side of like those kind of wharfs in downtown Portland. There's a lot of places, I guess, doing that. I have no idea what kind of. Surely it's doing something, and then a saline environment's going to be a lot different than just like a more river valley thing, which is more or less the kind of Belgium's Pajottenland situation. We're kind of neither here. You're not going to get strong river valley anything. You're not going to get strong marine life. You're not going to get salinity. I've never, I don't know, in seaside vineyards, people will definitely talk about like picking up kind of that salinity. And I think there's occasionally, a very real, like, it gets lifted up into the air and kind of will be on the grapes themselves, and it'll pick up salt water that way. I don't think anything like that's probably happening, but I think everything plays a role in the deeply not understood. It's not so much misunderstood. It's just not understood. Life,
and I feel like that's a part of that is okay though. That's part of the art of making these beers.
So exciting, and I assume that science at some point will develop new ways of studying all of these things. But just catching things out of the air, when the air is constantly in motion, it's just every kind of variable all the time, and it's it's a big old unexplored field, which keeps it fun for sure.
And there's so many it's like trying to predict the weather. Like the further out in the future you go, there's so many factors that affect it. There's things that you probably don't even think of are having an effect on the margin somewhere that you don't even realize.
Right. Who knows what I'm not taking appropriate notes on? I'm sure there are things that are playing major roles, and then maybe I'll ever learn about them. Maybe, future generations will. That's fine.
So how deep do you go then? And this is when we mentioned about like having an ecology that has developed over like 100 years where beer has been open fermenting like that. How much, either at your location or just at blenderies in general, or places that are doing spontaneous fermentation, how much insight do you actually have on the specific kinds of bacteria? Do you bother trying to figure out what's in the air there specifically, or do you just kind of get a feel for what the beer's doing?
More the latter. We have not a robust lab program, I would say. There are certain things you can learn just kind of empirically, sensory. But it's definitely more broad strokes, like broad classifications of bacteria or yeast rather than individuals. Part of the problem is like it's costly, and I don't know what I would change if we started saying, oh, this is unless there were some public safety risk, but we get that with pH and alcohol, so we feel pretty good about that. But we'll see like lactobacillus do, at least in like our Berliners, it'll do kind of its early pH drop, and we'll just assume that to be the case because it's in the thriving temperature range for lactobacillus, and we'll monitor the pH drops between temperature and pH. We have an educated guess as to what's doing that work, and then you'll see later on pH drop, and maybe accompanied by a little bit of ropiness, the kind of or beer sickness, as it's sometimes called. If you put like a wine thief in a barrel and then drop it into a glass, and it'll have kind of a stringy nature to it. It'll just be like a little more viscous. It's like maple syrup without the sugar or something. It'll be kind of long and stringy. And that's generally known to be a result of pediococcus, which will do kind of the longer term acidification of our beer. So that's more a feature for like our lambic inspired golden ales. Those are kind of the two larger classes of acidifying bacteria that are at least widely known and propagated in kind of wild beer production, even like pitched by some mixed culture breweries for sure. And then Brettanomyces, you kind of surmise by it cleaning up the pediococcus, ropiness, and things of that nature.
I love the idea that you can learn so much about what these microbes are doing just by observing the effect that it's having on the beer and knowing from experience and other people's experience what kinds of yeast in general cause those sorts of effects. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think definitely, as we keep doing this for years and years and, decades and so on, hopefully, we'll start to do a little more proper science to it. It's not like we're trying to not. But yeah, in the interim, you can still learn a decent bit just from using your senses and the real kind of not quite ancient know-how.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of real science, but I'm also a big fan of a little bit of mystique, and I think the mystique is pretty cool.
It's very much the intersection of the two. I mean, yeah, it's. I just consider it just kind of a little bit at the outer bounds of science. Opened as it is up to the air with all of its attendant variables. It kind of defies science a little bit, but there's obviously plenty of science at work in the whole process.
Yeah.
It is interesting to think about, like you mentioned about future generations, like even thinking back not that long ago that humans didn't even understand the existence of yeast, or that's what was fermenting these beverages. It'll be interesting to know generations from now, like how much of this process is more understood.
Totally.
And if it will, like, is that, I guess it would be better, but like, I don't know, like the mystery of it and the art of it, I think, definitely contributes to these beers, but we feel like we know so much, but in the realm of things, we also know so little. So I don't know. It would just be interesting to see generations from now what exactly they have learned about this process that we don't currently know or understand.
Yeah. Yeah, there will be some new kind of Louis Pasteur type to probably, turn the whole thing upside down and tell us, new things about the problems that
write about it and refuse to allow it to be translated into German.
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't that what he did?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because he didn't want them to use it for their beer or something.
That may be. I hadn't heard that, but I would not surprise me. I mean, French and Germans, they're not always,
They don't always get along.
Yeah, not always.
Not always. I imagine, though, I think, we're talking about like how much you could sort of clinically scrutinize this process and science the heck out of it, as it were. I imagine the right motivated people with the right amount of money could just do it.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I think it would risk sort of feeding into that homogenization that we were talking about earlier, and that, there's so much to be said for the location where these things are produced that, maybe you could synthesize in a lab and a strain of yeast or something and end up with something that tastes exactly the same as what you make, but like, is it worth the effort? I think there's something to be said for just the terroir, as they say, as like where it was produced.
Are there ideal places that it's, and some of this we sort of already know, but you could pinpoint even more. Some places are better for this type of brewing and fermenting. Are there places where you'd be like, oh, I would never put a spontaneous brewery there? Those beers would be shit. Like, is there?
I've always said that about like Newark, at least in the vicinity of, I don't know, just driving through there, anywhere by the AB factory that like it smells miserable. That would certainly play probably a negative role. But I think, it's always been kind of one of the thrusts of the Lambic Brewers arguments that like that's the best place, and it wasn't just kind of because they were the ones that did it there steadfastly, but it was something magical in the air there. And then then Britannomyces bruxellensis got named for the Brussels area and all of those things.
It's the same way with like
British, but
certain beer styles became popular in certain areas because of the water chemistry. And now, we have learned how to manipulate our water to get the water chemistry that is best for brewing certain styles of beer.
Right.
So I'm I guess that works for, even for hops, there are certain latitude, longitude, whatever, that are ideal for growing certain types of hops, certain soil qualities.
Yeah.
So it does make sense that, it would be the same for yeast as well.
Yeah, obviously we're definitely at the point where there's going to be far more, I don't know, human variables of like who's first of all willing to do the undertaking,
Yeah.
who's trying to do this, not always economical madness of letting a beer age for 3 years, and yeah, it's just kind of a low sample size probably for now. But I imagine, yeah, if everybody did it, we would have a similar thing probably to like there's vineyards all over the globe, and some of it gets a little too much kind of maybe ensconced, or it becomes a kind of seems like real estate protectionism of like this is where it's got to be because we have a strong amount of money to protect of that.
Right.
You'll pay $10,000 for this hectare of vines. Sorry, $10,000 a bottle for this hectare of vines.
Right, yeah.
You could pay $10,000 for a hectare of vineyard elsewhere. But yeah, certainly there are differences. There's going to be differences everywhere. And I think that with how few of us there are practicing this now, that should be part of the interest, knowing that as with winemaking or anything, it's not going to be divorced from like what we're actually doing and how we're doing it. But still, one of the major factors is going to be kind of a terroir that would. I'm not trying to make terroir a thing because I think it's hard to like pronounce, but that was always kind of my thinking of like that's mostly what we're talking about with spontaneous fermentation of beer proper, of like you're talking more about what's ambient in the air rather than soil microbes. Not that they're not sometimes not they don't commute, but they're different.
Something you said earlier sparked something that I wanted to ask about aging beer, but on the consumer side.
Okay.
So there's sort of this people believe like, oh, I've had this aged beer for 10, 20 years, that the longer it's aged, like it holds like some sort of certain value or rarity of some sort. And I remember several years ago, a friend of ours attended a Cantillon event at Monk's, and they had opened a something crazy, like 15, 20-year-old bottle of Fifun, and Jean Venois was there, and
I was there. Yeah. It was great.
He was mortified that people were drinking this beer that was that old. And sometimes I'll grab a bottle and there will be like Best By dates of something like 20 years into the future. So for these sorts of spontaneous beers, lambic style beers or whatever, what do you think is the sweet spot for aging? Like, when I buy a beer from you, is it okay to drink it right away? Should I age it? How long is too long to age it? Like, what is the sweet spot?
So we hold on. Our process generally is we'll take already deeply aged beer, right? Mm-hmm. Blend it or not together, generally dose for bottle re-fermentation with honey. That'll provide the carbonation. That fermentation, in order to kind of clean up and have everything taste cohesive and beautiful again, can take anywhere from like 2 months to 2 years, 2+ years. But generally what we're seeing for the point in which we are enjoying it the most is probably about 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. So we're holding it during its, I don't know, little bottled adolescence until the point in which it's good to drink, when you buy it off our shelf in the tasting room for sure. But re-fermenting in the bottle and keeping a beer on its lees like we do, among many other things that we do prior to bottling to help the longevity of the beer, means it should keep, and we've observed as much, it should keep, I would say even improving for the first 3 years after purchase even, I would say. Probably like the first 5 years in the bottle, unless there's like a major cork defect or something that we're unaware of, at packaging. And then beyond 5 years, it's going to be kind of beer dependent. some, and also like, our oldest bottles now are I think about 5.5, 6 years. So we don't have the data, other than that we have tried to do everything as fully traditionally as possible, emulating the producers with the kind of most age-worthy bottles that we've appreciated. And with those, we've enjoyed them 10, 20 years easily. Longer than that, it might start to be a curiosity, or at least an increased kind of gamble. Storage conditions might play a stronger role.
Right.
And we try to have that seasonality, so that like anywhere in the kind of, 45, anywhere of the not freezing up to about 70, 75 degrees Fahrenheit should not be an issue for the bottle. Extended at 75, you're probably not going to want to do. That's going to, it's going to make it fall off definitely sooner. Mm-hmm. Fruit flavors, which I think was why Jean Vanois was objecting to that beer being served. I think on the back of Fufun it says like best enjoyed in the next 3 to 5 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I remember having that bottle, and it was, it does not have fresh apricot character, but it was a very surprisingly beautiful beer. So there's still, it depends on what you're, trying to get out of it. There are certain flavors that will drop out. The color of a creek will drop out, but it'll kind of start to reveal more, sometimes secondary or tertiary characteristics. You'll get like a different kind of earthiness to it. It's most fun if one can afford to, any which way. If you're able to like check in on a beer that you drank at opening, you knew what it tasted like then, drink another one like a year in, then like another 3 years, then maybe another 5, and you just like kind of see this long development. And partially it's just a memory training exercise of like, what even, where was I then? But it's a fun process. And I tend to enjoy our beer kind of most in I don't know, like at this point, kind of the older the better. They do, for the most part, just keep getting better. Unless it's if I'm trying to get fresh fruit character, mm-hmm. Certainly that's
I just don't have the patience. I think of our membership beers from this year, I think I have 2 left. And
there's more coming, Good. Yeah.
And I also I don't like to store a whole lot of beer in the house because, I love to go out and go to breweries and drink it out. So I try, or even trying to have more non-alcoholic beer in the house. So I am very mindful about the amount of beer that's in the house, but I do sometimes wish I was better at taking some bottles and hiding them. I need like a hidden beer cellar that I can't access, perhaps. I don't know.
There you go, Dana.
Well, one of the things we do that we'll probably always do is cellar a bunch ourselves, mm-hmm. and have them available, on site, so that if you want something on the older side but don't want to deal with it yourself, right, or have it taking up valuable space, you can.
And I think this is a good time. I wanted to mention the Remembers Club that you guys have, which I just renewed. It's a really, really fun thing to be a part. And one of the most exciting things is the barn party, where you guys do pull out aged bottles or like rare collaborations that you've done with Dugard or whoever else. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to be able to experience those beers and share those beers in good company and people that appreciate what those beers bring to the table. So do you want to plug the membership a little bit and talk about it? Are there still spots available?
It's a rough time to maybe do it right now because there are no spots available, and it's like the renewal period is ending right now. But
tune in for 2024.
We're maintaining it year round. We'll keep the little. It's just like a little icon on our on the materials page of our website, just our little web shop. It's it's a little $0 item, so it just grabs your like email address, and so then we'll just hold on to that to then kind of lottery through, randomize the wait list for next year. So we give priority to whoever's already been a member. But then, then we'll let some people in. So that'll be probably around a similar time frame, January-ish of next year. But you can do it and then just forget about it and just get an email, 10 months later and say, oh, what luck.
It's so true. So true.
Oh, what luck.
What
luck.
What does the membership get you? What are the perks?
So the membership currently is, well, it's been this, I guess, the same the past 2 years, $245. It's 2 separate 6-bottle cases so far of all, 750 milliliter bottles. 2 of which, I guess, per case are exclusive to the Rememberers, which is the name of the program. 2 are kind of present day, our favorite releases that we've done. And then there are 2 vintage bottles, one which is what we call pure omakase, just we choose it. I might even this year try to do like one of those old kind of like baseball card, like this is what your chances are of getting whichever specialty bottle in the mix or something. Give you the ratio odds. And then one is kind of like a vaguely ranked choice. It's basically we'll give you a selection of like 3 to 4 of our favorite old bottles that we have a couple cases of, and you can choose one of those. So it's, exclusives, recent stuff, old beer that's still just singing. Then there's the party. There's a special glass. Last year we had like special preview days. We'll try to do something. There's nothing maybe to preview this time around now that we're kind of fully open, or working towards being, I guess, more fully open than just Thursdays, hopefully by March. And yeah, we'll get something going for that too.
Cool. I mean, sounds like a good deal, especially if you get the 2 cases.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it.
That's what the bulk of it is. And like we're releasing sometimes some beers. Some of those exclusive beers are like, they would be very expensive if we were to straight up sell them. Like, stuff that's aged for 3 full years, stuff that we would, need to charge $35 for or something. And I think the average cost works out to like $20-ish, maybe not even including the glass or any of the other things. So yeah, we tried to make it, none of us are like in any memberships, and we tried to make it something that we would still want to be in, so we were going from like a point of some skepticism and then trying to, deliver from there.
Well, it sounds like a really good deal, and I think the glass is super cool.
Yeah,
it might be worth it just
Steph
for
was
that.
proudly drinking from it.
Different glass this year. I don't know how we're gonna. We came out guns blazing with that one.
Right. I would love to. I would stay a member for 6 years just to get a 6-pack of these glasses. I'm just saying.
We should have. I don't know. We should have gotten more, frankly, because they're definitely more fun to like have a couple of, and then you can with a friend or whoever do kind of blind yourselves to the tasting process and not just have the one. But
when we recorded with Ethan at Fermentary Form, they have a collection of this type of glassware behind the bar, and we inquired about it. And I just think the idea of doing blind tastings with friends and including drinking it in an opaque glass so you can't even judge it by the way that it looks, it's such. He told some really interesting stories. So listeners, go back and listen to that episode. It was a good time.
Yeah,
it was first episode after getting out of the hospital too, wasn't it? That was a good time. But just a different perspective to take as many biases, I guess, out of the equation as possible to enjoy a beer and talk about it. So that's what I thought of as soon as I got this glass. I thought of Ethan there, fittingly.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we play a game, perhaps?
Yep, I was just going to ask if it was
time. It is
time.
about that time.
Yeah.
I could feel it. I could feel the gaminess collecting in the air.
Oh,
the gaminess. Yeah, that's not a good.
I don't like gaminess, no.
I could feel the fun collecting in the air.
Okay, we can go with that.
All right, let's go with that. Let's play a game, everybody. Let's play a game. Cheers, Internet, and welcome to Happy Fun Time Games, the podcast trivia segment that is always the same every time, everywhere. Astute listeners may remember that 5 episodes ago, we played a round of There's Weird in My Beer, featuring all beers from Earthbound Brewing, which I struggle to say every single time I say it, Earthbound Brewing, which is in St. Louis, Missouri. It is an owner-built and run operation, and their goal is to bring beer novices and connoisseurs interesting and historical beer with a touch of weirdness. So today I am returning again to this fruitful well for the beers in today's game with ingredients that are guaranteed to at least pique some interest, if not engender a little bit of confusion. None of the ingredients in the beers today are all that really out there, and there's nothing particularly gross. So this is one of the pleasant editions of this game that we sometimes get. For those who don't know what this is, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about a beer and then give you a multiple choice option of 3 unusual ingredients, and you have to pick which one of those is the weird in that beer. So let's get started, and we will begin, as we most often do, with Dan. First up, we have a 5.5% ABV Goza that was a collaboration between Earthbound and St. Louis Hop Shop, as well as the producer of the star ingredient to be discovered. They describe the resulting concoction as salty and tart because, well, yeah, it's a Goza. But there might also just be another creeping sensation in there owing to the inclusion of, is it garlic mustard, horseradish puree, or red hot spice mix?
Well, oh God. None of those sound good. I'm gonna go A.
Going with the garlic mustard, things that are very near and dear to my heart. Steph?
What was the second option?
Garlic mustard, horseradish puree, red hot spice mix.
Horseradish puree.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see maybe like fresh horseradish. This is where I go wrong. I start to analyze these things and then it's a downward spiral. I'll say whatever C was.
Okay, that was the red hot spice mix. So we have 1 garlic mustard, 1 spice mix. James, what do you think?
I'm going spice mix too, only because you said it was the producer, and the other things sound like just. I mean, pureeing is not so much a producing a thing, but like if you're making your own spice blend, that's something, right? I think they're trying to, get their spice blend some additional notoriety.
This may be the only time in the history of Happy Fun Times games where a logical reasoning has led to a correct answer, because it is in fact the red hot spice mix. Usually when you try to think about the logic behind these things, you just end up with the wrong answer. But that time it actually worked.
Okay.
That time it actually worked, and I kind of thought that might happen with this one. So Old Vienna is the maker of this. It's Old Vienna's red hot riplet seasoning, to be exact, which I haven't heard of, but apparently is a staple in some locations. Anyone here ever heard of it?
No.
No? Okay. I'm not alone. But that's why I called it generic red hot spice mix in the question, because I had never heard of it, so I thought perhaps you hadn't either. But it's a thing that exists. Old Vienna makes it along with other various spicy things, and they were an official collaborator on this beer, which is Riplet Goza. So Steph and James correct on that one. Moving on to our next beer of the game. Steph, you were going to guess first on this one. Next up is one of the most criminally underappreciated styles of beer, an English-style ESB. It is full of biscuit malty goodness, as well it should be, Citra and Nelson Sauvin hops, plus a little extra something that they say adds a perfume, spice, bread-like aroma, and a nutty, sweet, tart flavor to this ESB. Is it ground cherry seeds, fennel leaves, or nutmeg and mace blend?
Aren't ground cherry seeds like poisonous? I'm gonna say fennel.
Going with the fennel. James, what do you think?
I'm gonna go B.
All right, also going with
fennel.
Going with the fennel. I love fennel. I love fennel. I love garlic, and I love mustard. Lots of things I love in this game today.
Good to know.
And finally, Dan, what do you think?
What was C again? I'm sorry.
C was a nutmeg and mace blend.
I'm gonna go with that.
Going with the spice blend, it was right last time. It is not this time. It is, in fact, nobody was right. It's the ground cherry seed.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to lie. I was going to say that until Steph pointed out that they're poisonous, and I was like, yeah, there's like cyanide or something in them.
Am I not right about that?
Ground. Isn't there such a thing as a ground cherry? Is it ground cherry seeds or ground up, like grinded, you know?
They are grinded cherry
grinded
seeds.
cherry seeds. I got it.
Sorry if that was confusing.
No, that's fine.
But yes, they are apparently, maybe some of them are poison. There are many kinds of cherries out there, many species.
I mean,
of
they
cherries.
have cyanide, but they're not necessarily like, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Apparently, you have to eat like a bunch of them to have any side
Right.
effects.
So specifically, it is the ground and extracted, or I suppose extracted and then ground kernels of the St. Lucie cherry, specifically. It's a unique spice said to have a bitter almond and cherry flavor and is similar to marzipan. I'm very intrigued by this. It is a traditional Middle Eastern ingredient where it is called maleb. And there is at least one other beer from Earthbound that also utilizes that unique ingredient. So there you go. Oh, and it's called Maleb ESB. Sounds very nice.
Brad.
There you go. More spiciness. No one got that one correct. We are on to our penultimate beer of the game. And James, you are going to guess first on this one. And now for a style that no one can claim is underappreciated, though its moment in the sun may have passed. The Milkshake IPA.
Well, okay.
This is a just shy of 7% ABV and, of course, brewed with lactose IPA. This Milky Boy also has an unusual touch of the outdoors. Is it maple leaves, cedar wood, or wild grass?
I'm gonna go, like early kind of high ally. They're going cedar. Oh, I'll go B.
All right, going with the cedar, Dan.
I kind of want it to be wild grass just for the hell of it.
For sure.
So you're making an aspirational guess?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I feel like that's every guess that I made.
Existence.
Yeah.
Yes, that happens a lot in these games. All right, so we've got one for cedar. We've got one for wild grass. Steph, what do you think?
What was the unclaimed ingredient?
Maple leaves. The national symbol of our friends to the north.
That's just dumb, though. That doesn't even make sense.
Maple leaves and beer is dumb, not Canada. We like.
Yeah, I don't think it would do much. Is my only thinking on the maple.
I wanted to pick the one that no one else picked, but that seems really stupid. I'll say cedar.
Going with the cedar.
It's
Good
freaking
choice,
maple
but that
leaves, isn't it?
is correct. No, it is cedar. Cedar
Oh,
wood.
thank God.
Yes.
I
It's
may have
called-
rage quit this game if it was maple leaves.
Fair. It's called Ozark Milkshake, which is not only the name of some mountains, but also a town in Missouri, which I did not know.
What? You don't watch the
I was
show?
gonna say that's.
Oh, that's right. It's a show,
Yeah.
too. Is the show named after the town? No, I don't
Yeah.
watch the show.
That's the whole
What?
area.
There are vast swaths of pop culture that I am completely ignorant of.
Yeah, but I feel like you would appreciate the writing of
I
that
think
show.
you would like that show a lot.
Maybe I'll check it out at some point. But this beer is called Ozark Milkshake. I don't really have a lot follow up on this one. I'm assuming there's a lot of trees in that area, and I'm assuming a sizable number of them are cedar. And wow, they do a lot of like local, like weird ingredients, but local weird ingredients. So,
Oh, that's a hint, by the way.
yes, that is a hint.
Where was
We
this
have-
brewery again?
St. Louis.
Missouri. Yep,
Oh, yeah, Missouri. That makes sense.
They've got like cool caves, I think, underneath their brewery too.
Oh,
There's a
that's
bunch
cool.
of St. Louis. It's a yeah. Seems like a cool
sounds good.
cool place.
Catacombs.
Mm-hmm.
So we have come to the final question of the game. So at this point, I'm going to add up the scores to see where everyone
It's okay.
sits.
Nope, it's okay if you don't.
So we can give the person in last place the best advantage possible. And tied with 2 points apiece are Steph and James, doing pretty good so far. Only one incorrect answer. Dan has absolutely no points whatsoever. So that means we're going to let Dan guess last so he can hear your answers first. The only thing he can save is face because he can't catch up to you guys, but he could at least try to get 1
You can
point.
figure out a way to get a bonus point.
Maybe.
Or two.
Bonus points are always on offer, one way or another. Finally, we come to our final beer. A fruit beer that was chosen to be included in today's game more for its name than for its ingredients. But it does have more than the Reinheitsgebot Quartet. It has plums, for example, and lemon zest, which sounds lovely. It also has something else that is occasionally paired with the word poison, but in this case, there's nothing to worry about. Is that ivy, oak, or sumac?
Oh, jeez.
Steph, you are up first.
Oh. I'll say oak.
Going with oak, James.
Sumac.
Going with the sumac. All right, not giving much away on his thought process there. I
Oh,
like that.
Dan, you want me to give something? Like, I just feel like oak. Like, they would probably like barrel. I feel like I got a good feeling about this brewery that they would like. It'd be something more about the oak, and ivy's kind of a nothing throwaway. So I'm just, and you know, sumac's just an easy local great ingredient that's everywhere. That's anyway.
I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like I've
Don't hate me if I'm wrong, though.
No, I feel like I've seen this in the news, or like you may have mentioned somewhere along the way, Wayne, before, and I really think it was Ivy.
Okay, going with the Ivy. I just have to say, James's explanations for his answers are some of the best quality explanations we've ever had in Happy Fun Fun Games. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you. But it's sumac.
God damn it,
everybody! It is, in fact, the sumac, which means
Tried to help you, Dan.
You did. You did.
for all those reasons he said. Sumac, which is apparently not just poisonous, but also any of about 35 species of flowering plants in the genus Rus. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. And the related genera in the cashew family. So there's a lot of things that are called sumac. Some of them are poisonous. The dried fruits of some species are ground to produce a tangy crimson spice popular in many countries. We are getting so much spicy knowledge today. I love it. Spices are amazing. The name and the reason to try of including this beer in the game is in fact based on the plums, though. The beer is called Jeff Gold Plum.
Really wonderful.
So I did also want to mention the interesting conversation surrounding oak versus maple leaves and all that. So this brewery does make a beer that has the word druid in the name, but I don't remember the rest of it, that is aged on oak leaves or barrel aged on oak leaves. So you mentioned about like if they put oak leaves in, it would probably be barrel aged. And I was originally going to put oak leaves in where maple leaves was, but then I had oak in the last one, and there's another beer with oak leaves, so I changed it to maple leaves. There we go. That's the story of the leaves in today's game. But let's see what the scores are after that final question. And I don't think anyone will be surprised to learn that with only one incorrect answer, 3 solid points, James is our big winner today. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Just behind with 2 points, a 50% hit rate, is Steph. And sitting at the bottom with 0 points. And as I mentioned yesterday, there's usually always someone.
Usually. I'm glad it could be me.
Nothing to be ashamed of. Dan has no points, but it was only 4 questions. What are you going to do? So thank you all for playing. No prize for winning other than bragging rights, and no punishment for losing as of now. But this is the point of the podcast where we must shout out to our most generous patrons on Patreon. We would like to thank the following individuals with the most sincerity we can muster, beginning with Jen McDonald.
Your podcast is fucking awesome.
Eric Dixon.
Cross-pollinating activities.
Dana.
I like cheese.
Me too. James Lambert.
Ba-ba-ba-da.
That one just starts so violently. Chris Mahoney.
I didn't pull that out. But...
Sean Sullivan.
Sweet baby Jesus.
That's a classic. Brian Mills.
Jalapeno.
Good one. Jill Chivers.
Let's have the biggest party we can.
Oh. The one and only, that's No Baloney, Joe Mansell.
I live to win games.
Dan does not.
Yeah, right.
Go for Simmons.
Amazing.
So it is. And finally, Ben Mengel.
Oh, whoop.
Thank all of you and our other patrons for your continued support of Beer Busters. It is very much appreciated. You can find out how you can get on this list and get all the other cool perks that come along with being a patron at patreon.com/beerbusters. But now, here are some commercials.
Say, Yvonne, remember when I said I'd have to send away to NASA to calculate your bar tab?
Oh, yeah. We all had a good laugh, Mo.
The results came back today. You owe me $70 billion.
This episode of Beer Busters is brought to you in part by Audible. Discover what millions already have. You don't just listen to an Audible book, you feel it. You can go over to audibletrial.com/beerbusters to sign up for your free 30-day membership. Plus, you get 1 book to get you started. After that, each month is $14.95. You get a credit a month for a book. Good for any book, regardless of price. It's ad-free, premium audio you listen to offline with no interruptions. It's your own library to build. You keep your books forever, even if you cancel. Exclusive member-only savings like 30% off additional audiobooks each month. There's easy exchanges. If you don't love a book, swap it for free anytime. Seriously. That is audibletrial.com/beerbusters for your 30-day trial. I never mentioned what beer I got. I know I showed it to the camera, but I didn't want to interrupt. Poor Man's. I found some Poor Man's when I was rearranging the beer fridges. The Tamave Pivo, their dark Czech lager.
Oh, nice.
They they officially have the new space, by the way.
Oh, cool. Good for them. That's great.
So they are currently in the process of remodeling, and Ryan posted some videos of what it looked like before, and now it's kind of cleared out, and they're working on the space, 2 stories. So we'll have to get an update from them and find out when the new space will be open.
Yeah.
But
I love those guys.
Good times.
Yeah, very cool. Good for them. James, what are you drinking? I saw you picked something up.
Yeah. This is just also PA, but more distant. Somebody, Rob from Old Thunder was here yesterday. Brought this Czech dark lager called Fooled by the Night. It's real nice.
Where's Old Thunder?
They're in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Blocks, just northeast of Pittsburgh, like 10, 15 minutes. Yeah.
So much further away.
You guys, when we were there last, you guys have guest beers on. Speaking of
it's been heavily Pittsburgh based at this point. Like, I don't know why. Just we've been there and we've been excited about it. Yeah.
But when we were there, you had on something from Bonn. And was it a collaboration beer? And it was really high in alcohol, and it was really delicious and amazing.
Gorgeous. Yeah. They gave us a pin of, what did they call it? Like an Imperial Dark Mild XXXX.
Yes.
Like barley wine adjacent. And so the Bond placed that collaboration with Troon. I think it was 9.7% alcohol. So Troon was our
not far from your old spot.
Right, our dear friend and neighbor. Former neighbor. Now Bond's our new, dear friend and neighbor. So they apparently had cast away that pin I don't know, a year ago or something. They were like, whenever we finally get open at the Referend, they were planning on doing that. And we just, kind of
that
never had a grand opening, so it was just the anniversary party. Yeah.
That beer
I was drinking a lot of that. It was gorgeous.
Oh my God. We need to tell Sam that they need to make that happen again on a much bigger scale, because we all need more of that in our life.
I feel like I just need more Bon in my life.
Yeah.
We had we had Mooey recently. That was the first time I had anything from them in a long time. That was at Kyber.
Yeah, I was just going to say the exact same thing, because I was there again this past weekend.
Oh, look at
had
you.
Another one.
Well, you guys need to come up north and visit Berks County, and we can go to the Referend. And Bonn is not that terribly far. The Referend is right off of 78, and we can hop on 78 and travel to Bethlehem. It would be a lovely day trip.
It's like maybe half an hour. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
We have a guest bedroom. We have an air mattress. You can crash here. I know you got a cat that needs a pill, but...
Yeah, well, we both have cats that need medicine. Yeah.
Oh, I have a cat that needs
mine's up to 2 a day now, too.
Insulin. Yeah.
These damn cats. Just wait till your barn cats need thyroid meds and insulin.
It's going to be a problem, because we've, they're barn cats, and we tell them that. Like, we tell the vets that, and they're like, okay, so, low stakes, but we love them so much. It's somewhere in between, like a pet and a barn cat kind of situation. Yeah.
I feel like a barn cat, though, is probably more badass and probably has a stronger immunity, and
I think
they're tougher
at base. Yeah. I mean, one of them was a failed house cat is the problem. So
that makes sense.
She's not necessarily, that's the loud one. She's not necessarily doing anything, not necessarily any hardier in the outdoor world, but the other one was rescued outside of a pizza dumpster cat colony in Reading. She's a real champion.
Do you know which pizza shop?
We don't know. Do you know a lot of the Reading pizza shops? I don't.
Well, the 3 of us are from Reading.
I used to work at a Reading pizza shop when I was in college.
Cats out back?
Not that I remember, but I wasn't there for very long.
Okay. No, I don't know. There's a chance we could find out that information. Yeah,
I'd be curious.
It's about her origin story. Yeah.
I mean, we could also make one up too.
That's true.
Yeah. We made up their birthdays. It's
That's what you have to do.
Yes, you kind of have to.
Totally.
Definitely. Makes me think of the dumpster possum from Tonewood.
Oh wow. Yeah. I forgot about the dumpster possum. That just came up in my memory.
Harry or Henry?
I don't remember.
I don't know, but they made a whole Twitter page.
Yeah.
They made a Twitter page for the dumpster possum while we were recording there.
Tonewood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought I might have had a sound clip from that, but I don't.
I deleted my Twitter account, so I no longer have Twitter. So you would have to find it, but good.
I'm sure the possum's not still there either.
We've had some interesting times in Jersey.
It's true.
Dan always the pause and save, that was from when we recorded at Flying Fish.
Oh, that was a hell of a night.
Because we recorded an entire tasting segment and Dan wasn't recording.
No. The computer crashed.
Oh, the computer crashed. Sorry. Technology error, not operator error. But we had the brilliant idea of we'll just do it again. And that tasting segment also included sampling their tequila.
I know it's kind of blown out, but it's Harry the Dumpster Possum.
Harry the Dumpster Possum is still on Twitter.
The last tweet was April 11th, 2019.
Okay, well, he just got out while the getting was good.
Yeah, he may have died during COVID. It's okay.
Yeah.
But long story short, that was probably the drunkest we ever were at a podcast recording. And so drunk that post-recording, we decided it was a good idea to tap our own firkin that they had prepared for us and we forgot about.
Did I miss it while I was searching for that? Did you mention that there was tequila that night?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I heard about the tequila.
So pause and save is now important.
They were making Flying Fish?
No, so the tequila was...
I think Jose.
So they got a tequila barrel from, I think it was Cuervo, aged a red ale in it, and then gave the barrel back, and they put tequila in the barrel after the beer had been in the barrel.
Okay.
And we had the tequila after the beer.
I see. That's cool.
Yeah,
it
it
was
was really cool.
It was very cool.
That's fun.
But
It wasn't cool that we drank it all
Right,
twice.
right.
Well,
That was not a good idea.
I don't want to do that twice.
Back in our younger days.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was a very long time ago. Yeah. But we're happy to have you here in Pennsylvania.
Happy to be here. Very, very truly. Yeah.
Do you how many batches of wort have you brewed in Pennsylvania?
Oh,
not in Pennsylvania, but at your
at our own
brewery.
place.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because even before, I want to say a majority was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was mostly Stickman, I guess, and then we brewed once at Triumph and New Hope. So here, I think we brewed something like 22 batches last year, or last brewing season. The years get kind of confusing, I guess. Yeah.
Are there any times in the midst of those brew days that you're like, man, I miss traveling to brew the wort?
Hasn't happened yet. Not to say that it won't happen. I mean, sometimes so Tom, our cellarman of 5 years, he's going to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail in just under 2 months. So he'll be out of here. But for now, we hang out. We have, we brew together. Once he's gone, we'll train somebody else up. But anyway, hanging out with Ethan, for example, or other host brewers on the brew days, that's a lot of fun. It's a fun, weird, long, you have coworkers for a day,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of fun and funny to do in your life. But otherwise, the waking up much earlier than you have to go start a truck that doesn't always want to start. It's always freezing cold because we're brewing in the winter. There's not a lot to love about that lifestyle. I think I'm nostalgic for it and kind of is that Stockholm syndrome or something? There's something deeply traumatic about it. I'm like, oh, wasn't that great though? Yeah, because it somehow was. I somehow look back upon those days somewhat fondly, but similarly to trying to move an entire business, that also kicked our asses in a very similar trucking dependent way. And it's nothing I'm trying to do again, but you think about that and you're like, wow, what a time that was.
Right. It makes you appreciate certain things once
does.
the wort is in the cool ship, it can stay there. It doesn't have to drive
there. And you can go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to take a truck cab nap and then wake up and drive an hour and a half. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the first batch of wort that you brewed there? What's the status of that right now? What's it doing?
Well, the first batch we brewed was a nightmarish thing. We brewed actually the season prior because we moved in here in April 2021. April 2021. Mm-hmm. And we had pruned most of the vineyard. We took all the grapevine prunings and threw them underneath, I think the same Ethan Open Fermenter tank. This was the concept for that.
That's amazing.
But we had no other source of hot water, and so it took 2 full days to like brew this. It was like an accidental sour mash, overnight mash tun situation. That beer is not all that it could be, and I don't know what to do with it because it's not bad, but like it's 8% alcohol and it has dandelions in it, and so I don't know what its identity is, and it was entirely grapevine fueled. And anyway, I don't know what it is. But hopefully it will be something. It's not it'll be something good, hopefully, and not drain destined.
It should be called "At least we didn't have to move the truck."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We have started serving a couple of like younger beers that we brewed on cask already. So they're like, we got one like wet hop young golden ale wet hop there's a newish organic hop farm in Reading. They're great Fawn Hill hops or hop yard. So we have their kind of fresh hopped beer on, and some from like Chamberson grapes. But so those base beers are like 7 to 9 months old, and so those were brewed on site. But yeah, increasingly it'll be a higher and higher proportion. Mostly things are tasting good. If anything, we have been kind of slowly upping the hopping rates, and so we're getting definitely better tempered acidity, I would say, on most things. Sometimes almost to a fault, and like the kind of for our Berliner series, some things don't have the kind of lactic acid that they probably need to be that, and so then we've always found something else to do with those kinds of things that don't quite fit the mold. You know. Dry hop it differently or do something fun and different. But so they're starting to exist, starting to come online, and they're mostly promising.
I know what I wanted to ask. Right now you guys are sort of bring your own food with know, as you get into the warmer months and you expand your hours, are there any plans to have food available to purchase on site?
So we'll probably I don't want to say never. I've looked back at old articles where I've said, like, we would never have a brew house, probably. And so that didn't turn out to be true. I think the short-term goal is, like, get some nice local cheese and kind of charcuterie-ish situation. There's a nice local bakery we love called Daily Loaf, and I'm hoping to get, like, some regular pretzels there, at least for Saturday. I don't know that I want to mess with like a food handling license or anything, so we'll be somewhat limited from that perspective. We'll probably increasingly do occasion like four set events. We'll keep bringing in food trucks and stuff. But I don't think we're ever going to be like I don't think we're going to ever have a full kitchen here or restaurant or anything. But we'll definitely up the snack game considerably.
So 2 years from now, you'll be making your own cheese.
We'll have a food kitchen. We're going to be Michelin starred in 3 years. You just wait. No, I have,
He's going to be making his own bread.
Yeah. We've got a real nice flour mill, actually, but that we haven't put to good use.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
I don't know much about milling. Can you mill grain to brew on that?
It would make it very, very fine. I mean, it dumps it out into different, like it's like semolina and like some fine grade flour and stuff. We've got another arguably also nice mill that's meant for brewing. And we're all set on that front. I know some people like for their kind of deeply hazy IPAs, some people have championed the use of flour as an additive there. I don't think we necessarily have any reason to, but we certainly could. We have, we can make far finer grained flour than we could previously, or with our brewing mill for sure.
Yeah, I have no idea if you can like adjust the coarseness of like an old mill like you can like a coffee grinder. I guess that's not really a thing.
For sure. Mm-hmm. For sure you kind of can. Is my understanding. There is that. Yeah. There is that.
You remember from Levante, more crushy, less crushy.
Right.
Yeah. That's how a brewing mill works.
Well, don't go too crazy with the adjustments because it might explode on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're spooky pieces of equipment potentially.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody wants to learn more about the Referend, where should they go?
So just show up at our front door. Ideally,
That works.
sometime that we're open. Kutztown, PA. We're not like maybe technically in Kutztown. We're just north of 78 in, I don't know, Crumsville.
I remember seeing the signs for Crumsville.
Yeah.
I always made fun of the name because, of course.
Right. We got a Kutztown mailing address. Anyway, yeah, showing up here is the best way to kind of learn about what we do, but the website will do in a pinch. You won't be able to taste the digisphere necessarily. that'll be a letdown, I bet. But you know, there'll be some information. You'll learn some things, and at least then know like, that's worth me driving an hour, or it's not. You know? That's a nice baseline to start from. That's just thereferend.com. But otherwise, yeah, right on Old Route 22 in Kutztown. Yeah.
I was looking at the website earlier, and it is very extensive and full of a lot of knowledge. I was impressed.
But also, like, there's a whole, like, kind of blog-ish section. I haven't put something in there in 3 years now.
We haven't put anything on our blog in, like, 6 years.
And some of the blend logs are not all up to date. Anyway, I've got some work to do on that front. But probably by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be so good and up to date.
Well, there's only one way to find out. You got to head on over to the website.
Yeah. All right. I'll just write my to-do list.
Isn't it funny when you get in the business of like making beer and like we hear people like, I mean, you're not diving into food right now, but people are like, I wanted to open a brewery and now I run a restaurant.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah.
I wanted to open a brewery, now I have to learn how to design a website and write a blog, like all this ancillary stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and run the social media. And speaking of, is there social media for the Referend?
There is. I would say we have a now kind of probably properly defunct Twitter account. The Facebook is just shit pushed from Instagram, and I sometimes post to Instagram.
Well, if the Twitter is defunct, have you at least tweeted more recently than the Dumpster Possum?
Yes, probably.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, actually early COVID I was doing some tweeting for sure. Yeah.
That's not that long ago. I mean, time has not mattered in the past 3 years.
Right. That's what I like to think. Anyway, yeah. I'm not looking to get back on Twitter or anything, you know. Probably looking to eventually divest ourselves from social media entirely.
I don't blame you.
Join our mailing list at some point, I guess. That's the dream, right? Is that you don't have to just like sell your soul to Zuckerberg or whomever, Elon Musk.
Boo.
These nightmarish ghouls. Yeah.
I think, that's a totally different conversation that we're not going to have right now, but I think I could see like the old school mailing list, like resurging with all this like pushback against social media becoming so ridiculous and
I've seen some, I don't know, companies and bands and stuff like make a concerted effort to try to, own that a little more themselves, and it makes a lot of sense. Especially like you've seen so many maybe breweries get like their posts removed for arbitrary random reasons, and like does not leave you a whole lot of confidence in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You got 10 or 20,000 people that said, yes, I would like to see what you have to say. And they're like, no, if you pay us, maybe we'll show the things that they signed up to see. It's not ideal.
We should start ours up again. And I know by we, Wayne, you were the one that did the bulk of the work, but we had a pretty badass newsletter that would go
cool.
out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to post links to the most current episodes, like you're right. I mean, we try to post this stuff, but it's in their hands if they choose to let the people that follow us see it or not.
Yeah. I mean, we're only beholden to MailChimp, which is the service that sends out the emails, but they just, all they do is they put your logo on it if you don't pay. I'm like, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, while you're out there looking for the Referend on the web, you can also follow
Speaking
along
of
with
all
us.
that stuff.
Yeah, speaking of all that stuff. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, we're at BeerBusters. Facebook, we are BeerBusters Podcast. The same goes for YouTube. There's also BeerBustersPodcast.com where you can add /shop or click on the shop tab and check out some of Wayne's cool merch that he designed. There's Patreon.com/BeerBusters. Get all the access to the behind-the-scenes goodies and so on for as little as $1 a month. That's all it takes.
I was just checking. BeerBusters.com is still for sale.
How much did they want for it? Like $3,000 or
10
something?
years ago, they wanted like $3,000 to $5,000. I don't know what the deal is now.
Yeah, we can totally swing that.
Just thought of it.
Sure.
What's wrong with beerbusterspodcast.com? People can't rate one more word.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we chose that because beerbusters.com was taken.
Well, all that aside, James, thank you so much for joining us, man. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Of course, and hopefully soon, Wayne and or I, hopefully both of us, can get out there. It's unfortunately rare for us these days to get out that way, but I feel like we got to make a time for it.
Sweet.
Got time to get out of the city and back to Berks County, boys.
That's right.
We can make that happen. I think so. Well, unfortunately, this does bring us to the end of another episode of Beer Busters. I loved learning about the spontaneous fermentation. That is so cool. I didn't know that was a thing, but now I do, and now I know what it is. So thank you for that.
So welcome.
And, of course, to you listening, thank you. Thank you for listening. If you don't mind, drop a rating or review on your podcast platform of choice. Do that for all the shows you listen to. Well, my name is Dan Baker. I'm joined by my co-host and brewologist,
Steph Hefner.
And the demented and fermented
Wayne Baker.
Remember, it's not about the liquid, it's about the experience. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you next time.
It's so hard to... there it is. That's the end.
That was the end. I know. It doesn't come through right.
That's what I was going to say. Mug of warm goodness. That's what I wrote down to say.